Hey guys, the Fire Brothers here. It's just me. My brother couldn't be here today, as always, because he's busy playing with the Bumblebee fidget spinner. So, shame on him. But anyways, it's been literally about 5 minutes since I last uploaded my last video, and now that I finished eating, I'm here to talk about the second piece of news for this day, and that is the new screenshots we got from the digital release of the Bumblebee movie. Now, these screenshots basically have information like some extra bio and details about the characters that appear in the Bumblebee movie that I think are extremely interesting. So we'll begin by analyzing, one by one, and I'm gonna tell you what each of these screens means and how do this connect to the future Bumblebee movie. What does this mean for Bumblebee 2 and the characters? So we'll start with Ravage. So Ravage, Decepticon, he transforms into a cassette. Now, this actually aligns with the digital comic I covered on the last video, which, if you watch that video, you will know that one of my biggest concerns about that comic is that I'm not sure if that's gonna be made canon or not, because if the comic was made before the movie was, decided by the higher-ups to be turned into a reboot, then that comic is not canon, because it's technically part of the Beavers. But if this was done after the reboot, after they decided to make this a reboot, then that comic is canon. But so far, the detail that Ravage transforms into a cassette is, it coincides with the comic. So that's like a piece of evidence suggesting that the comic's actually canon. So yay on that. He's a mechanical jaguar. Well, yes. And he apparently has Cybertronian missile. Oh, he can transform into a Cybertronian missile? Or does that mean he has Cybertronian missiles? Like, I'm really confused about that. I don't know what to think about this. Tell me in the comments down below. Does Ravage transform into Cybertronian missile? Does he do that now? Or does that mean he just has the missiles, like, as weaponry? I'm actually pretty curious about that. So here we have Ratchet. Autobot, he transforms into an ambulance. So, yeah, Ratchet here, there's not much to talk about. He looks very similar to Ironhide. But then again, in G1, him and Ironhide share the similar body type. And here it says he transforms into an ambulance. Now, we're gonna go back to this in a moment. We're gonna move to Ironhide right now because, well, it says that his, vehicle modes are a Cybertronian armor truck, which fair enough, like Cybertronian form is gonna have a Cybertronian vehicle form. But then it says that he transforms into a Nissan Vanette and a GMC Topkick C4500. Now, about that, the Nissan Vanette, it's basically his G1 vehicle mode, like what he transformed back in G1. And the GMC Topkick, for, I bet all of you guys know what it is, it's his, movie vehicle form, the Michael Bay vehicle form. Now, what's interesting here is that they added the two vehicle modes, like they didn't just say that he transforms in this on Cybertron and on Earth he just transforms into this, which is kind of weird. And Ratchet, they just say he's an ambulance, which granted, in the movies, in the Michael Bay movies, he was also an ambulance. And not a specific type, it was a specific type of ambulance, but I find it weird that they were specific for Ironhide, but not for Ratchet. Now, in a previous video a long time ago, I said that the two most likely characters to arrive on Earth were Ironhide and Ratchet because Hasbro released toys out of them. And not just any toys, they were like G1 / Michael Bay inspired toys. Like Ironhide had the car mode from the Michael Bay movies, but it was somewhat modified to have the colors from the Bumblebee movie and to look a bit more, G1-ish. Same with Ratchet. So what I'm thinking here is that maybe once they arrive on Earth, Ironhide scans the G1 vehicle mode and then he scans the Michael Bay vehicle mode. Or they could have just done this because they probably, thought of this somewhere during, before Hasbro decided to make this a reboot. And before this was announced to be a reboot, this was supposed to connect to the Michael Bay universe. So I think it makes sense to have the, the vehicle mode if, this was done before they decided to make this a reboot. But if they made the BIOS after the whole reboot idea, then I guess this means that they're planning to stick with what they did with Bumblebee at the end of the film, where They kind of, you know, did retcon the Bay movies with the reboot, but Bumblebee still has that Michael Bay-ish kind of look because he's recognizable, it's marketable. And since Ironhead and Ratchet are two popular characters from the Bay movies, I can actually see Hasbro modifying their designs so they can look a bit more Michael Bay-ish. Which honestly I'm not completely against, because their designs are one of the two designs that I don't really have any complaints with. But let me know what you guys think about this in the comments down below. Oh boy, next up we got RC, and yes, RC is really thick. Now, I want you guys to go into the comments down below and tell me, who do you think is thicker, RC or Shatter? I'm slightly leaning towards Shatter just because Shatter is, you know, a little wider and taller. So hashtag Shatter or hashtag RC for who you decide is the, you know, the queen of the Transformers. Alright, so RC is interesting because for her modes, it says that she has, you know, a car mode, which, yeah, I mean, her Cybertronian vehicle mode is a car. But then it says that she also transforms into a motorcycle. Now, the motorcycle makes sense because of the Michael Bay movies, and they're probably keeping that as a nod to the Michael Bay movies, or maybe they're planning to turn her into a motorcycle once she arrives on Earth, much like Transformers Prime. But her last mode is interesting because it says Spider. Now, it's not like it's saying like some kind of motorcycle brand with just like motorcycle Spider X14 or something. It just says Spider. Now, I don't know why they chose that or why they put it in there. Could RC transform into a spider or something like that? I don't think there has been any depiction of RC where she turns into a spider. If she does, that will be really interesting, and maybe that's gonna be a segue into Arachnid. Maybe there's some Arachnid relationship in there between RC and her, because in Transformers Prime, RC and Arachnid had that rivalry. So I find it really interesting that, you know, they put Spider for the vehicle mode. Does she transform into a spider? Maybe. This seems to imply that that's the case, but I don't know what to make of this, honestly. So, or maybe Spider is like not exactly a vehicle mode, but it's like a state that she can turn into, just like Mixmaster in Revenge of the Fallen, who could triple change. Well, it wasn't exactly triple changing. He transformed into a gun to shoot his enemies. Maybe something along those lines, but when I think Spider, I think of those sentry robots from Follow Cybertron. You know, the flying robots that look like spiders and they could attach to a building and, you know, they sniped you from above. I'm thinking that's probably the case because RC is known for being a sniper. And that could probably be some kind of reference or a nod to Follow Cybertron, which, if that's the case, I'm all for it. Next we got Cliff Jumper. Now for Cliff Jumper here, it's really interesting because he died. So I don't really know why they will add some vehicle modes to him since he's unable to. I'm not gonna make the joke because I know some of you guys are you know, like tired of it. But if Cliff Jumper died and we have his vehicle modes here, his Earth vehicle modes, that doesn't really tell me that Cliff Jumper somehow survived his encounter. What I'm thinking that's going on here is that they were planning to make those vehicle modes for him once he landed on Earth, or maybe this is Hasbro's way of saying that, hey, we were planning of doing this, but now that he's dead, you know, here's what could have been, or something like that. I honestly don't know what to make of this. Cliff Jumper does look pretty cool though, like, I'm not gonna lie. It's a shame he had to go so early. He's becoming the Yamcha of Transformers. Next up we got Wheeljack, and Wheeljack looks pretty good. Like, he's probably one of my favorite designs. I do feel like the wings on the back are a little too big. I feel like they should be shorter. But anyways, for his vehicle modes, we have the Cybertronian Hoverband, which is of course the Cybertronian vehicle mode. He transforms into a 1976 Lancy Stratos Turbo, which is basically his G1 alt mode, so it makes sense. But then he has two other vehicle modes. He has the 1987 Porsche 962, which is basically another racing car which looks a little bit more like tracks than anything else. And then he has the 2006 Ford Mustang GT, which I don't know if there was a Wheeljack who once used that vehicle mode. There probably was one and I just can't remember. But why do we have three vehicle modes? There's like three vehicle modes here and they all look similar. I don't think that the modes here are like, oh, Wheeljack can triple change into all these different vehicles. I think they're more like options. The vehicle modes here that are listed are, well, besides the Cybertronian one, are basically vehicle modes that they're planning to use for a future movie, or things that they were planning, you know, he should look like this, or no way, he should probably look like this. That kind of explains the, you know, RC vehicle mode, because she has car, spider, and motorcycle, which are 3 completely different things, and I don't think they're gonna make her a triple changer. So maybe it's like, you know, these are 3 possibilities, like she could turn into either one of these things. And maybe it's the same thing with the Wheeljack over here. It's again really interesting. I'm not giving you exactly a concrete answer, I'm giving you some opinions, some options. It's up to you guys to decide, because honestly I can't make anything of it. Then we have Brawn, and if you watched the previous episode, I already covered him. I think he looks pretty good. In the movie, I didn't really get to appreciate his design, but I think he looks very unique. I think they did a good job with him, and I'll be honest, I'm not a huge Brawn fan, and I think he looks pretty cool. Then we have Starscream. Now, this kinda leads me to believe that this was made pretty early on in development, like before they decided to make this a reboot, probably. The Starscream over here looks like Blitzwing. Yes, I know it's a joke, but I mean, look at his face. He has the whole Blitzwing visor. This tells me that at this point, Blitzwing was supposed to appear on Cybertron, and we know that's the case because during the second trailer we actually saw Blitzwing on Cybertron until they decided to change it to make it look like Starscream. So I'm guessing that this happened somewhere after the second trailer, like they made this change somewhere after the second trailer. Now, when they decided to make this a reboot, or when did they decide to make this a line towards a reboot is, you know, beyond me. I don't know when they did that, but at least now we have like a timeline. They made this somewhere after the second trailer. After the second trailer and before the B movie release. So at least we had that time gap to decide, you know, whether this is before or after the whole reboot thing. Anyways, Starscream still here looks pretty cool, I guess. He definitely looks different from what he did in the movie. I don't mind that. And in case you guys don't believe me that this is, you know, an early version of Blitzwing that got modified into Starscream, look at his gun. It's the same gun that Blitzwing used against Bumblebee. So yeah, this is, no matter how you look at it, this Blitzwing got turned into Starscream. And next up we got Shockwave. Now Shockwave here actually looks pretty cool, I'm not gonna lie. In the movie I thought he looked fine, here he looks pretty good actually. And people said that the G1 designs will not work. Anyways, what's the interesting part here are his modes. He transforms into a Cybertronian laser gun, which is of course what we saw in G1, and then a steam-powered warship. Now, what's really interesting about this is that there's a couple of incarnations, but the closest thing that comes to my mind is the follow Cybertron version of Shockwave that transformed into a spaceship. But I kept thinking about it, and I think that description kind of fits more the Siege on Cybertron Shockwave, because he transforms into a warship. So my guess is that this is some kind of attempt to kind of align the movie, you know, the movie Cybertron scenes with the tone line, the Siege on Cybertron tone line. Because in the past I have stated that I think that the Siege Cybertron tone line and the B movie are somewhat connected. I'm not saying they're like completely connected, I'm saying some aspects are connected. The characters on the toy line look an awfully lot like they do in the movie, and vice versa. And here's another, you know, possible confirmation of that, because in the toy line, Shockwave transforms into some kind of aerial warship. So this description actually fits with the toy, so it's even more evidence to that probably being the case. Now he also has an Earth vehicle before, and that's the Mazda RX-8. Now in the Bay movies, Shockwave never really transformed into any form of Earth vehicle mode. So again, they're either planning to turn Shockwave into a Mazda RX-8, which I don't think it fits, because if you see the car, it doesn't give me that Shockwave vibe. So what I'm guessing here is that these are more like options, the things that he can possibly transform into. So yeah, I would say that these things are more like possibilities and not exactly, hey, this character's a triple changer which transforms into a gun and a warship and a car. Because if they oversaturate the market with triple changers, people are gonna get bored and tired of it. Try to keep the triple changing thing special. Like, do it once in a while, but don't do it too often. Like, that's how things should be. But anyways guys, those are all the characters, and wow, this video lasted quite a long time, so it's gonna take me a while to upload this. So anyways guys, tell me your thoughts on all the characters here. Do you guys like them? Do you guys dislike them? Is there any of them that you like more than another? Do you think RC is thicker than Shatter? Do you guys believe that these designs were made after they decided to make this a reboot or before they decided to make this a reboot? Because some details here align with the comic that I covered on the previous episode, which could probably indicate that the comic is canon. But we still don't know if the comic is part of the reboot or the Michael Bay universe. Like, that's still the confusing part, because we still don't know if the Bumblebee is like the official sequel to Bumblebee. For all we know, it could be a side adventure, or it could have been, you know, made before they decided to make this a reboot, which will, you know, invalidate the comic. We still don't know. There's a lot of questions and a lot of possibilities. So let me know all about it in the comments down below. So like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video. Stay safe, guys.